You want to know what rage feels like? Try watching a grown man, an HOA president with a clipboard, slam a violation notice onto your pregnant sister's car, threaten to tow it, and smirk while she clutches her belly in fear. That car wasn't just steel and paint, it was our late mother's. And when he raised his voice, acting like a king over asphalt, he had no idea who he was dealing with, because I'm the district attorney. Ciao. Act 1. The start of the conflict. My name is Daniel Cross. I prosecute crimes for this county. I've seen people bully, threaten, and overreach, but nothing hits like watching it happen in your own driveway. The car Marcus Greer, our HOA president, called a repeat violation, was the last piece of my mum we had left. After she passed, my sister Emily kept it. Her perfume still lingered in the seats, her favourite song still cued on the radio. Even the little scratch on the passenger side door, something we used to laugh about on family trips, was memory wrapped in metal. But to Marcus, it was just a target. He strutted up with his clipboard, smug like he owned the cul-de-sac, tapping the hood as if it were his. Repeat offenders don't get warnings, he said loudly enough for the neighbours watering their lawns to hear. The board already voted fines and removal. Emily froze, one hand protectively over her belly. She whispered, "Daniel, maybe just let them tow it. It's not worth." I cut her off, quietly but firmly. "It's worth everything." I stepped between Marcus and the bumper. My voice was calm, steady, the kind of tone I've used in court when reminding a jury of the facts. You've got no authority to threaten seizure. Not here, not like this. For the first time, he blinked. His smug posture faltered just a hair. Then he sneered. "You think this is enforceable? The board has authority you don't understand." I leaned in, letting him hear every word. Authority. That word only has teeth if it's legal. And you should know my office handles illegal teeth. The flicker in his eyes told me he finally registered the title. District Attorney. But Marcus wasn't the type to back down. He smirked again, straightening his clipboard. "We'll see." And that was the beginning. Chifol. Act 2. Escalation and the turning point. The next morning, I stepped outside into what used to be a peaceful neighborhood. The sun glinted off the lake, but the peace didn't last. A guard in a navy polo leaned against his SUV near the clubhouse, radio crackling, eyes locked on Emily's house. Surveillance, ordered by Marcus. Everywhere I looked, signs of his control were plastered on doors. Bright orange slips declaring non-compliance, swing sets taped off as safety hazards, canoes chained with notices dangling from them. It wasn't governance, it was theatre. Fear, staged in every corner. Mrs. Hicks, our elderly neighbour, stepped onto her porch with a watering can. She froze when she saw me watching, mouthed silently, "Don't fight him." Then she slipped back inside, pulling her curtains closed. That was the real damage. Marcus didn't just find people, he silenced them. That night, Emily eased the car out of the driveway. Her knuckles were white on the steering wheel. A guard watched, scribbling notes on his pad. Every move she made was under a spotlight. I stepped forward, drawing his gaze away from her. Inside, though I was cracking, doubt crept in. Maybe Emily was right. Maybe it wasn't worth it. What if he pushed and she lost the baby? What if I dragged my sister into something that broke her instead of protecting her? For the first time, I thought about folding, just paying the fines, letting the car go, walking away. But then, the courthouse. I pulled the HOA's corporate filings. My gut told me something was off. And when the clerk slid the stamped record under the glass, my stomach flipped. Lakeview Estates HOA's incorporation had been suspended 3 years ago. 3 years. That meant every fine, every lane, every patrol Marcus had ordered, none of it had legal standing. He'd been bluffing the whole time, ruling with authority that didn't exist. The weight lifted off my chest and burned into something else. Resolve. I wasn't just fighting for a car. I was about to pull the curtain back on a fraud. And then came Angela Perez. She was Marcus's secretary, the one always scribbling minutes at board meetings. I watched her hands tremble as she typed, her eyes darting toward the security cameras. She wasn't loyal. She was surviving. When she finally slipped me a folder in the back corner of the public library, I knew the tide had turned. Emails, directives, proof that Marcus had ordered guards to make examples of families like Emily's, proof that he knew exactly what he was doing. I held that folder like a weapon. Between Angela's testimony and the stamped record, Marcus wasn't just bluffing, he was exposed. Act 3. the showdown and justice. The church hall smelled like lemon polish and old hymnals. Marcus had called an emergency compliance meeting. Rows of folding chairs scraped across the floor as neighbors shuffled in. Tense and silent, Marcus strutted to the podium. 2 guards at his side. He tapped the microphone like a preacher testing authority. "Order," he boomed. "This meeting will address ongoing violations, including the Cross household." Gasps. Emily stiffened beside me, her hand instinctively over her stomach. I stayed quiet. Timing mattered. Marcus launched into a speech about rules, about chaos if discipline wasn't restored. Heads nodded, not from agreement, but from fear. Angela sat off to the side, pen hovering over her notepad, her shoulders rigid. Then Marcus barked. "Non-compliance cannot stand. If fines aren't paid, we'll authorize a lien by week's end." That was the spark. A man in the front row raised his hand, his voice shaky. "Marcus, why are the guards armed with tasers? I thought that wasn't legal." The hall went dead silent. Marcus snapped. "It's perfectly within our rights. The board has authority to maintain order." Authority again. His crutch, his lie. I stood slowly, my chair scraping across the floor. Every head turned. My voice was calm, steady, carrying through the hall. Authority without legality is nothing more than noise. A ripple moved through the crowd. Marcus gripped the podium. Lies, slander. Angela's pen clattered to the floor. She rose, folder in her trembling hands. I kept the emails, the directives. Marcus told me to write minutes that disguised orders as procedure. He knew the incorporation was suspended. He told me to act like nothing had changed. Her voice cracked, but didn't break. The proof was out. I stepped forward, pulling the stamped record from my jacket. I raised it high for the front rows to see. The HOA's incorporation was suspended 3 years ago. Every fine, every lien, every threat, none of it has legal ground. He's ruled this place with smoke. Gasps, murmurs. A woman near the back whispered, "He threatened foreclosure." When he had no power, the guards shifted uneasily, glancing at each other. The room began to stir. Residents who'd been silent for years stood, one by one, recounting their own stories. Playgrounds taped off, porches fined, flags banned, intimidation at every corner. The hall erupted not in chaos, but in awakening. Marcus slammed the microphone. "You think a piece of paper changes this? I built this neighborhood. I kept order." But the crowd was no longer listening. Fear had turned into fury. Harold Dixon, a retired contractor, leaned on his cane and shouted, "You fined me $500 for repairing my porch. You threatened my house when you had no legal standing. You didn't build this community. Marcus, you hollowed it out." Cheers erupted. Voices rose together. Marcus's shouts were drowned by the roar of neighbors who finally realized the truth. I stepped closer, voice cutting through the storm. "Your curtain just fell, Marcus, and there's nothing left behind it." His face drained. His grip on the podium shook. For the first time, the king of Lakeview Estates looked like what he truly was. A man without authority, stripped bare by the very people he'd ruled with fear. And just like that, his reign ended.
It's over.
Final line. Power without legitimacy is nothing but noise, and eventually, the noise gets drowned out by the truth.
Ciao.